public service announcements. So tomorrow, we're going to be serving falafel for lunch here at the temple in the tent. So even if it's a little rainy out, you'll be dry under the tent while you're eating your falafel. So join us tomorrow for that. Rabbi Prasnet, that was from 11:30 to 1:30? Yes. Okay. And do you want to tell us about our next author talk that we have?
Yeah, on Sunday, I'm going to put the information in the chat box from 11 to 12. We have one of the top-rated Israeli authors, Eshkol Navo, speaking to our community. It's going to be a really awesome program. You do not have to have read his book, it's a good book, but we would love for you to learn with him and learn about the scene of Israeli writers. And he has a creative writing workshop, and he's been training some of the up-and-coming Israeli authors as well.
Again, that's one of those opportunities that we probably never would have taken advantage of, if it had not been for the pandemic, because he's coming to us from Israel. Yeah. So this week we will be celebrating Yom HaAtzmaut, Israel Independence Day. So what better time than to turn our attentions to learning a little bit more than we already know about Israel. And I know that Cantor Ott has a great program for us. And sort of it's so fascinating to think about the formation of Israeliness. How do you take a new country and create an identity? So Cantor Ott, take it away.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Appel. I'm going to start this discussion by asking you, if you were asked to describe a typical Israeli, what are character traits that would immediately come to your mind? Okay. Let me see if I can just see the gallery. If you want to just shout it out, that's okay with me too.
Well, I think a lot of us, Cantor Ott, have been skewed from the previous Israeli programs that have been screening on Netflix. One in particular, we just finished Schnitzel, which I loved, and that's another group of people, and it was very emotional, though it focused in on a particular group of I don't know if they'd be Haredi, but ultra Orthodox.
Yes, they're Haredi. That's what they are.
Oh, right. And had the same problems that any group of people would have. But generally, when I think we went to Israel for our youngest daughter, who's now 30, going on 35, for her bat mitzvah, and I remember, sadly enough, our luggage never made it to Israel. We were the only members in our group that never had our luggage that came to Israel. So we had to do shopping and buy clothing for myself, my mother-in-law who was there. There were, so it was quite an experience going into the department stores and hearing this very loud, garish, ongoing kind of chatter in the department.
So can I assign those adjectives, loud and garish?
Sure.
Which I don't think any of us would disagree with. So any other typical characteristics of the Israeli?
I would say optimistic and determined, persevering.
Mm-hmm.
Would say a little prickly.
Oh, very, very.
Well, like the Sabra.
Right, exactly. They're a little brash on the outside. They'll tell you exactly what they think without being asked. But on the other hand, when you're looking for directions, after they yell at you for not knowing where it is, they take you there in person.
That's right.
Exactly.
And if you want somebody in the foxhole with you,
yeah,
they would be that for sure.
It sounds to me, that coming from New York, very much like New Yorkers, though. People seem to think that my characteristics are more Jewish, but they're definitely more New Yorker.
Well, I want us to keep these words in mind because they will come back to us when we start talking about the music. So I'm going to share my screen right now. And this is always a wild adventure. Ding. Ding. We have DDD. I want that black window to go away.
Well, it's okay.
How can I get it on slide? I can't.
Not working on slideshow.
Yes, I can't. Ugh.
If you go at the very bottom of your screen,
Yes.
to where it says like 86%, there's a little button next to the minus sign.
Yes,
That should be
this thing.
Yep, click that.
Ah, Azoy.
Like,
Lovely, thank you.
Turn off your
Thank
camera.
you. So we're talking about a specific genre of music called Shirei Eretz Yisrael, which is, it's an official technical term for this genre of music that's roughly from the 20s until about 1960. And the popularity of these Shirei Eretz Yisrael was governed by how frequently they were sung in public, you know, where you heard them in schools, at the Shirabat Tzibur sessions, of public sing-along sessions, and you know, in army encampments and so forth. And then by about 1960, the marketplace took over, and you had record sales and radio airplay and things like that that governed the popularity of songs. But until then, it was by singing them, basically by singing them. I just wanted to share with you the sources that I used. I will say that the first thing that I read was Bennett Miller's rabbinic thesis, which was about the future of music in the synagogue. And he referenced the music from Israel a lot. And that led me to the Wikipedia Music of Israel, which is a very extensive article. And this book is really the Bible on the subject. This is by Edwin Sarusi and Moti Regev, Popular Music and Culture of Israel. And that, you know, breaks it all down by, you know, chronological and stylistic. And this wonderful book by Marsha Bryan Edelman, very thorough, lots of information about music from Israel. We, the Jewish people, are our music. It has told our history, expressed our prayers, joys, dreams, and sorrows. It has evolved over the centuries of our existence and is reflected in styles and genres that are unique to every place in the world where Jews live. So let's see if we can identify these folks. If you know who any of these are, just shout it out. This lady over here, upper right, Debbie Friedman. This lady over here, Achinoam Nini, known as Noah. This is Geula Gil. This is Yosef Karduner. And this is Yessel Rosenblatt, sort of known as the most beautiful Chazanic voice in our history.
If people joined my Bible class yesterday, we listened to his Psalm 126.
All the stuff that I sing for funerals, El Mali, etc., it's all Yessel Rosenblatt's tunes. So of course, Israel was settled by these waves of aliyot, which began, Aliyah number 1, because of pogroms, persecution in Europe. And as you see throughout the aliyot, they kind of differed ideologically from each other. They're very distinct in who they brought to the country. This was the political Zionists, and this was Theodor Herzl saying Im Tirtzu Ein Zo Agada in 1897. Rishon LeZion, very first settlement in Eretz Yisrael. Aliyah number 2, after the Kishinev pogrom, this is more religious Zionism. Tel Aviv was founded in 1909, and the first kibbutz in Degania. Aliyah number 3, definitely they were getting organized. After the Balfour Declaration, the Histadrut was established. I'll talk more about that. later on. Aliyah number 4, agricultural settlement, the conquest of labor. Even, I should say, especially the intelligentsia, because these were the people who were coming in. They took part in all of the hard labor. They wanted this. This was a conscious decision on their part to do the work that was necessary to develop this land. Aliyah number 5, this was kind of an acculturation period. They started sending out booklets of songs. We'll see pictures of those in a moment. So, who was the essential chalutz, one of the original pioneers? Who were these, bright and accomplished and degreed people from Europe who decided they were going to come to this new land and they were going to hoist the axe and the shovel just like everybody else? They were there for social and personal sacrifice, deprivation for the sake of performing a task important to the community, with the emphasis on agricultural manual work. This land had been virtually ignored for thousands of years, and they were determined to make it their home and develop it. Through physical labor, creating a new human being and a new national entity, shedding the image of the diaspora Jew and now becoming the Hebrew Jew, an ideology based on connection with the Hebrews that resided in Canaan during biblical times and worked the land as farmers and shepherds, and also a cultural creativity and rejuvenation of the Hebrew language, but with Sephardic pronunciation. And you're talking about people who were Ashkenazic Jews and native Yiddish speakers, in fact, and they all came to this new land and said, well, we're all going to speak Hebrew together. So now we're talking about the music part of the culture. So it developed, as Rabbi Appel said, immigrants coming from all over. And do we want to be, how we were in the old country? There was a mix of Eastern European Jews, Central European Jews, Yemenites, native Arab speakers, people who were already in the land. They had to, combine a variety of sensibilities and create a new culture that would unite everybody. With every new wave of immigrants came new cultures, and although they shared a religion and history, there was not enough common ground to form the basis of a new society. Therefore, there was a need for a new unifying culture that could help amalgamate them into one society. So now we're talking about the song, the words to the song, specifically the poems. They always use the first person plural, we. It's all we. They're all secular. There's nothing religious about these songs. It's all about, we love you, homeland, and we follow you blindly. A belonging to the land and its intoxicating beauty. And here I've attached some pictures where you can see what it is they were singing about. And the pain at the price of belonging. Songs of the landscapes and the homeland, marches, popular tunes for the campfire, et cetera, et cetera. And the goal was to bring together diverse immigrant communities to teach the Hebrew language and to instill a feeling of collective pride. So how were the songs taught and shared? So these are these little booklets that I referenced that were given out. They were sent to schools, military bases, to the kibbutz, to the kibbutzim, and their satellite organization in the United States were also sent there. And so they were proliferated throughout Jewish communities in the United States as well. And so you see that Shirah B'Tzibur, was in a very important part of life in Eretz Yisrael at this time. Part of the kibbutz, army musical troops, campfire, kumzitzes, and the songbooks were distributed to all schools and youth organizations. Now, the Histadrut was created originally as a trade union to organize the economic activities of the new Jewish immigrants. And it spawned several subgroups, and the one for culture actually commissioned songs from the composers and lyricists that we're going to meet. These people were paid to write a certain genre of song. Now, the music itself, what I have come to see in all the songs that I looked at, many of them are in the Dorian mode, which which may at first listen sounds minor, and you wonder what's so happy about minor. Well, the Dorian mode has a very special quality. And I'm going to introduce my friend Dave Schlossberg, Piano Dave. He was my collaborative keyboard artist at Anshe Ameth for 21 years, ever since he was 16 years old. Brilliant musician, brilliant keyboard player and improviser, and he's going to tell us about the Dorian mode.
So the modern Dorian scale can be thought of as a scale that has a minor third, a minor seventh, and a major sixth. So what you get when you, a typical D Dorian scale sounds like this. All the white keys here. And what's most important for the purposes of this presentation is listen to the chords. So you have that minor, or that major sixth, which gives you the hope, and then the minor seventh here, that's C. You have this kind of feeling, which is very determined and heroic, and it's very notably and markedly different from what you would call the Freygish, which is where you have the flatted sixth and the sharp seventh. So what it sounds like is you have this, as opposed to Freygish, which is kind of what you would associate with more traditional Jewish sounds. And those who composed these melodies took great pains to distance themselves from the traditional sound. They wanted something to reflect the pioneer, lifestyle, this kind of grunt work, kind of working the land feeling. And so this Dorian mode, we can get very minor without getting too dark. We've got that hope kind of in there. You can hear this kind of progression, this kind of harmony in many songs in the Jewish repertoire, including some songs such as Exodus. Right, you hear that major sixth? Right? Just these three chords, it's like you're tilling a field. Then you've got everything from It Is a Tree of Life, Eitz Chaim Hi, Debbie Friedman. Eitz Chaim Hi Lama Chaziki Motecha Me'usha Shalom Shalom. There's your major sixth again. It's very, very hopeful, proud, and determined. And then finally, another example is Erev Shel Shoshanim, hear that? Very austere. And then, right, major sixth. So in many of these, and there are plenty more, you can hear this definite heroic quality. So that's my little explanation of Dorian.
All right, so I'm going to correct Dave. That Tree of Life was written by Richard Silverman, with all due respect. Okay, so I hope we know a little bit.
Your camera's off, by the way.
Well,
maybe
you just call it out if you have something to add.
I was just saying we can't see you. We can't see you.
Do you want to see me? Can you see the screen though?
We can see your screen, but we can't. It's just a voice. So if you want to turn on your camera.
We want to see both screen and you.
Wow. Let's see. How do I get my face on there as a speaker? Can I do that?
You probably have your video is stopped on the bottom of the screen, Anna.
Where?
Or maybe if you.
Or I could stop the share if I mean, I had really, what I had planned was that I would, basically talk and present. And if any of you at any time have, a comment to make or a question, please just call it out.
I'm going to send you a thing to ask you to start your video. Let's see if that works, Anna.
My video, okay.
There you go.
So now I'm on?
Now you're on, and we can also see your
Oh,
presentation.
how nice. How nice. Very good.
Technology.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Anna,
Yes.
Anna, I do have a question.
Yes.
When I was thinking, when I do think of Israeli music, klezmer always comes to my mind too. And I don't think that was noted in the different time frames when you did the Aliyah frames of the music. Is that a reason for
Well,
that?
they certainly brought elements of that, the Fragish scale that Dave was talking about. Huh? That mode definitely came from klezmer and Eastern European music. But I'm talking about the new sound that was created once they got to Israel, once they got to Eretz Yisrael. Okay, does that answer your question?
Kinda. I mean, it does, when one thinks of klezmer, is it because of the kinds of instruments that produce it? I think of klezmer, I think of the wind instruments. I don't know if that is, I don't have the knowledge of it, but or is it more of the Hasidic?
Well,
we have the
we'll see.
don't know.
Some of these composers, they borrowed Hasidic tunes. Let's listen to a few of these songs and then see if any of this gets put together for you. Klezmer is an Eastern European genre, and the whole idea of creating this new body of songs in Israel was to unite everybody, not to have them sort of reliving their shtetl lives. They were living new lives. So we're going to talk about some of these composers and lyricists who were, let me repeat, commissioned to write this music. So the first of them is David Zahavi, and he was 16 years old when he wrote the song Orcha Bamidbar. He wrote the melody. He got the words from which by Yaakov Fishman, and he found them in a publication called Moledet, whose monthly issues were targeted to Israel's youth. And he had become a song leader at Kibbutz Na'an. He was the first of these songwriters to actually be born in Eretz Israel. He was born in Jaffa to parents who had emigrated from Romania. So I put him as the father of Shirei Eretz Yisrael. And this particular song, Orcha Bamidbar, which literally means a caravan in the desert, he read the words to the poem, and let's go right there. Okay. Yamin usmol rak chol vachol, right and left, only sand and sand. Yatzhiv midbar lilo misha'ol, the desert turns yellow without a path. Orcha ovra dumam na'a, caravan passes moving silently. Kidmut chalom sham mufla'a, as if a dream image, a wondrous thing. Utzlil ole yored katsuv, and an echo of a note rises and falls in rhythm. Gamalim pos'im benof atsuv, camels tread in a melancholy landscape. Linlan, zeshir hanedod, shatok use'et, shatok utse'od. This is the song of the wanderer, to be silent and carry, to be silent and trudge on. So the words just conveyed to him a picture of an endless expanse of yellow sand with not even signs of a footstep in it. And then a mirage of a caravan appears. And so it's just the most sensuous melody. And so I have a wonderful ensemble of people playing this. There is a favorite son of Temple Emanu-El in the ensemble. Ben Schwartz is my drummer here. He played for me for a number of years when he was going to Mason Gross. And the wonderful clarinetist is Mark Furstein, and Dave Schlossberg on the keyboard, Orcha Bamidbar. So this is actually a rehearsal. So you're going to hear me barking out stage directions here and there, but I just thought that the performance was just so perfect. I mean, musicians just feeling each other on this incredibly gorgeous melody. What happened?
that's why, that's why you're here, because you're so great.
Okay, that's why we do it. Not from that song. Any thoughts about that song? It's not
Beautiful.
clever.
Beautiful. To me, it sounded a bit of a touch to it.
Well, because of the clarinet,
Yes.
clarinet.
Yes.
But it's a totally different tonality, totally different. And that song has always been one of my favorites. He was 16 years old when he wrote that tune in 1927, by the way. So any other comments, questions?
You could hear the sereneness of the desert. I mean, it had that smooth rollingness of imagining that spectrum of going on and on.
Right, exactly. The endless expanse.
Mm-hmm.
So now we come to a song that I think many of you will know, and this one is actually based on a Hasidic tune from Eastern Europe. The words are by Yaakov Orland, who was a frequent lyricist in this genre. Born in Ukraine, taken to Eretz Yisrael in 1921. His parents were founders of the working brigades. After World War II, he studied at the Royal Drama Academy in London. All right, so many of these lyricists did study in Europe, and they were, fluent in a number of languages, and they wrote translations of famous, European literature into Hebrew. Okay, so he translated from English, German, and Yiddish, works by Oscar Wilde, Edgar Allan Poe, A. Milne, and George Bernard Shaw. And he served as chairman of the Hebrew Writers Association. So these were truly lettered poets. So this one, Rad Halayla, I think you'll know. Which we probably all learned to do the horror to. And we're going to hear this performance by a group called Burning Bush.
שירנו הבוקע לשמיים, שובי שובי אורתנו מחודשת שבעתיים, שובי שובי ונסוף כי דרכנו אין לה סוף, כי עוד נמשכת השרשרת, כי ליבנו לב אחד מעולם ועד יד, כי עוד נמשכת השרשרת. ניגונייך, כוחותינו עוד לא תמו, שובי שובי אל בנייך, 1000 דור עלייך קמו, שובי שובי ונסוף, כי דרכנו אין לה סוף, כי עוד נמשכת השרשרת, כי ליבנו לב אחד מעולם ועד עד, כי עוד נמשכת השרשרת. לה 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 כי ליבנו לב אחד מעולם ועד יד, כי עוד נמשכת השרשרת. שירנו הבוקע לשמיים, שובי שובי אורתנו מחודשת שבעתיים, שובי ונסוף, כי דרכנו אין לה סוף, כי עוד נמשכת השרשרת. כי ליבנו לב אחד מעולם ועד יד, כי עוד נמשכת השרשרת. לה 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 לה
So that definitely, you can hear the Eastern European roots in that one, and the tune is indeed a Hasidic tune. Okay, now this one. Now we're moving into art song territory. This song is so beautiful. And in fact, I found a recording of Placido Domingo singing it, but that's not what we're going to hear today. The lyricist, Natan Alterman. And if you're a Shtisel fan, you hear that name mentioned because at that last scene, around the table, they talk about, was it who wrote that? And Alterman is one of the names mentioned, and he's frequently mentioned, as a secular poet in kind of a derogatory sense, in the context of Shtisel. But he was a brilliant poet and lyricist, and he was frequently sought after to collaborate with the composers of the day. Here again, he translated works of Shakespeare, Molière, Racine, and Russian classics into Hebrew and Yiddish. So he wrote this poem. The music was written by Mordechai Ze'ira, another very prolific songwriter of this time. A tune of his you might know goes like this. Lecha Dodi, lekrat kala, pende Shabbat, nikabla, which I'm sure you know, and many, many others. So this is a lovely collaboration between Natan Alterman and Mordechai Ze'ira. And you can see it is a kind of a sad scenario here. This is really, it's art song territory, but you will definitely hear the Dorian mode there. And this is performed by, well, you'll hear it narrated. You'll hear and see them.
Now another song from Esther and Abraham Ofarim.
Beautiful. It's been recorded by many people. Now we're going to another with words by Natan Alterman, and this time the words are by Daniel Samborski, who was born in Germany and studied at Danzig Conservatory and the University of Berlin, and wrote very serious concert music. And once he was in Tel Aviv, he composed music for a film called The Promised Land, and he worked as a music teacher in schools and teacher seminaries. And then the Histadrut got him to lead Shira B'Tzibur at the Brenner House and radio broadcasts. And so he wrote many songs of this time. You're going to be treated to a video of Ofra Haza singing this gorgeous song. Ofra Haza was right on the doorstep of being a major music star here in the United States. She had just sung on the soundtrack of Prince of Egypt. I believe she duetted with Mariah Carey on one of the songs, and she'd been on the Johnny Carson show. She was set to make it here and sing with Whitney Houston and Madonna and all of them. And I think you will see that she had it all. Just gorgeous woman, gorgeous voice, died very tragically of AIDS. So Shir HaEmek, beautiful, beautiful depiction of the Jezreel Valley, which was very popular for the pioneers to settle in because of how fertile it was. And it actually has a tragic sort of denouement here. So we will see Ofra Haza. She's the main event. So that's all we have of Ofra, unfortunately, but just fantastic. And let's see, she made a recording of a song called Imnin Alu, very Middle Eastern Yemenite vibe, which was used by a lot of DJs and clubs. They would loop it, and it was appeared on many recordings and many dance clubs. All right. So now we go to a beautiful song and a beautiful partnership between Nachum Nardi, who wrote the music for it, and Bracha Safira, who he didn't collaborate on this, but I just wanted to include her in the picture because their marriage sort of brought in all of the Yemenite influence, because that's where she was from. And so her work in collecting melodies and songs from the local Arab residents of Palestine and from Jewish communities in Yemen, Persia, Bukhara, and Sephardic communities influenced Nardi's musical development. He arranged these melodies and composed new ones in the same spirit. And Nardi composed settings of poetry by Chaim Nachman Bialik, Natan Alterman, also Yaakov Fishman, and Levin Kipnis, among many others. And here is David Shimoni, originally Shimonovitz, who wrote the words. Mi Itneni Of, I've included this song in Holocaust programs. Very plaintive, gorgeous, heartrending. And you'll hear it sung here by Rosa Wall and the Thelma Yellen High School Choir, which I believe Thelma Yellen High School is in Tel Aviv. And so that's a high school choir singing this. All right, now we're going to move into some more up songs. This is one that I know that you know. Hafinjan literally means the coffee pot that was passed around at campfires. And the song has a lot of verses. Let's just look at it real fast. It has a lot of verses. We usually only sing two. Words by Chaim Hefer, born in Poland, and he became the chief songwriter of the Chiz Batron, the Palmach Army Troop. And he wrote lyrics for many composers, including Sasha Argov, Moshe Walensky, Dov Seltzer, and the singers who performed his songs included Yehoram Gaon, Shoshana Damari, and Yafa Yarkoni. Moshe Walensky became one of the most, probably the second most important composer, I would say, after David Zahavi. He wrote all of the anthems. He founded this organization, ACUM, which I guess was their equivalent of ASCAP, the Society of Authors, Composers, and Music Publishers in Israel. Very important that the creators of this music should get their due. And during the War of Independence in 1948, he wrote melodies for many of the songs of the Chiz Batron. From the 1950s on, he set to music hundreds of songs for singers and army bands. And in 1983 was awarded the Israel Prize for Career Excellence. So let us enjoy this performance of Injan, which will be by Effie Netzer, who was and still is a well-known song leader in Israel, had published about 5 volumes of songs that were used in Shira B'Tzibur sessions. So I'm sure you all know it. Sing along. That was fun. All right, we're not going to do this one. We're going to do this one. All right, so I want to, I guess I'll end with this one. Hafle Vafele, written by, words by Yaakov David Kamzon and music by Yedidia Admon. What's interesting about this, I'm fascinated by this guy and definitely want to see more lyrics of his. He wrote poetry mainly for children. And he published in youth magazines such as Davar Li'eladim and Moleret, where David Zahavi saw the poetry of Yaakov Fishman. And his best known songs are El HaMa'ayan, Bagadi, Bagadi Katan. I'm sure you've heard that one. And this one, Hafle Vafele, I'll show you the words in a moment. The composer, Yedidia Admon. Now here again, we're moving into a little slightly more musically complex vocabulary. You'll hear it has kind of irregular meter. He studied music theory and composition in the United States. He was a pioneer in the field of Israeli song, an inspiration for the generation of composers that followed him. His unique style combined elements from Yemenite, Persian, Arab, and Hasidic music, as well as biblical cantillation. So let's take a look at this. This is kind of a riff on the story of Moses hitting the rock, you know, which was his undoing, and he didn't get to go into the promised land. But the lyricist, Kamzon, he wrote this for children. And, you know, if you remember your Andersen's fairy tales, Hans Christian Andersen, his fairy tales always kind of took a macabre turn. And so let's just take a look at the words here. All right, so we know that Moses hit the rock. Second verse, and Moses brought a kid and it suckled honey from the rock, and his voice was like a fountain, pure and clean as water. And the kid grew horns of rock, and 70 wolves were gored on them and disappeared in fire and water. So I guess the kids enjoyed seeing that. Anyway, terrific song. And you're going to see a performance by the Hazamir Chamber Choir, Hafle Vafela. Okay, and Zahu. All right. So thank you very much. Any questions? Please unmute yourselves.
Thank you, Anna. That was great. I
Thank you
loved
so
listening to
much.
the music. Yeah.
Right, and you could just listen to the music and you get a flavor of the kind of personality and culture that was being formed by the music. So I hope you were able to see that.
Thank you. And what a, yeah. Oh, Eugene, go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to ask two things basically. One, Rat Halayla. It sounded, just melody sounded very familiar. I don't remember where did I hear it, what words, and on what language were those words. Either exactly this or something very, very similar. It is first about this Rat Halayla, and second, if I'm thinking about Moldavian songs, and he possibly used something close to Moldavian songs, Bessarabian songs maybe. It also sounds like that style of music.
Well, that particular one, Rat Halayla, was from Hasidic. Its background is Hasidic. So
But Hasids originally are from those areas,
yes,
therefore
correct.
it's possibly that. And second, what I wanted to say, the last author that
The poet comes on.
yes, no, yeah, about Kamzon. It says born in Varna, province of Telis, in northern Lithuania. I know generally I know geography of that of that area. At least I don't know those places. Maybe they changed names since he was born more than 100 years ago. But at least now, maybe not exactly now, but at least when I lived not very far from that area, there were no such places. And Varna, I think it is in Bulgaria, named Varna. It could be just small village in Lithuania at that time. But this was also interesting, just, general knowledge, not specifically music, of course. But Rat Halal, it's about music again. Melody very, very familiar.
Well, good. That was the idea. I mean, they wanted it to feel like a little like home, but yet they wanted to create, a new feeling. Any other questions?
But again, I want to add thank you. It was very good to listen to those melodies, and in many of them were, good, put in good mood and mood in that apparently authors of music wanted. And I'm sorry, one more thing. At one point, you were reading words in Hebrew and right away every line in English. I think it is very good. Just one little step to learn Hebrew a little bit for people who don't know it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. This was great, and a great way to sort of kick off our celebrations for Israel's Independence Day this week. So we hope you'll, if you're around, join us tomorrow for lunch in the tent. I know that Friday night service will feature some Israeli music. I know Cantor Novik is working on that. And then Sunday we have our author talk. So we look forward to celebrating Israel with you in the next few days. Take care, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a good day.
Thanks again,
Thank you.
Anna.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.